They say some roads never forget the footsteps of the dead. And in Chicago, there is one road, one cemetery, and one restless soul whose story has been told for nearly a century. Her name is whispered with fear, fascination, and sorrow. They call her Resurrection Mary. On cold nights, when the wind howls through the trees and the moonlight spills over Archer Avenue, drivers have sworn they see her. A young woman in a long white gown, her hair golden, her eyes pale, walking slowly along the roadside as if lost in time. Some have picked her up, thinking she is just another stranded girl. Others have braked hard, believing she stepped right into the path of their cars. But every single story ends the same way. She disappears in front of the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, vanishing into thin air. This is not just one man's tale or one town's superstition. For nearly 100 years, the stories have been consistent, relentless, impossible to ignore. And if you're brave enough, tonight we're going to dive into the chilling legend of Resurrection Mary, the ghost who still wanders Archer Avenue. The first major story goes back to the early 1930s. A young man named Jerry was driving home late at night after a lively evening at the O. Henry Ballroom, a popular dance hall outside of Chicago. He was tired, the streets were deserted, and the winter air cut through the cracks of his old car. Then, through the dim glow of his headlights, he saw her. She was walking along the road, alone, shivering slightly, dressed in a white gown that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Jerry slowed down and asked if she needed a ride. The girl gave a small, shy smile and slid into the back seat. She barely spoke. When Jerry tried to start a conversation, she only gave short answers, her voice soft, distant, as if carried from another world. As they drove further down Archer Avenue, she suddenly leaned forward and whispered, "Please stop," by the cemetery. Jerry nodded, steering the car toward the iron gates of Resurrection Cemetery. But when he turned to say goodbye, his heart froze. The back seat was empty. The door had never opened. The girl had vanished without a sound. Shaken and pale, Jerry drove home and told his friends what had happened. They laughed at him, said he had drunk too much. But he swore he was sober. He swore he was telling the truth. And soon, he realized he wasn't alone. More and more people began to share the same story. A girl in white, a ride, a disappearance at the cemetery gates. The legend of Resurrection Mary quickly spread across Chicago. People want to know, who was she? Why did she haunt Archer Avenue? One theory points to a woman named Mary Bregovy, a 21-year-old who died tragically in a car accident in 1934. She was buried at Resurrection Cemetery. She was young, blonde, fond of dancing. The details lined up too perfectly to ignore. Some believe her restless soul still searches for a way home after that fatal night. But others say Mary isn't just one woman. Resurrection Cemetery holds over 150,000 graves. Soldiers, children, victims of disease, even gangsters from Chicago's bloody past. Some paranormal historians argue that Mary is the spirit of many women, merged into one eternal apparition. Archer Avenue itself, they say, is cursed ground, soaked in tragedy and restless energy. Still, Mary's story is the one that endures. And over the decades, the encounters have become darker and more terrifying. In the 1970s, One of the most chilling reports came from a driver who swore he struck a young woman with his car near the cemetery. He felt the impact, heard the thud, saw her body roll onto the road. Panicking, he jumped out, expecting the worst. But when he looked, there was nothing. No body, no blood, no torn clothing. The road was empty. Around the same time, the cemetery caretaker discovered something strange one morning. The huge iron gates of Resurrection Cemetery were bent wide open, twisted apart like they were made of wire. Embedded into the metal were what looked like burn marks shaped like hands, as if someone or something had grabbed the bars with supernatural strength. Paranormal investigators rushed to photograph the evidence, and even skeptics admitted it was disturbing. Could a ghost really leave physical proof behind? Taxi drivers have perhaps the most frequent encounters. Many have shared the same story. A young woman in white hails them down, climbs silently into the back seat, and gives them an address several miles away. But halfway through the ride, she asks to stop near the cemetery. And when the driver turns around, she is gone. The cab is empty. The air is cold, and the fare remains unpaid. In the 1990s, a group of friends driving late at night claimed to see a barefoot young woman staggering along the roadside. They slowed, worried she was in trouble. But when their headlights fully illuminated her, they saw her face, pale, almost translucent, her eyes glowing faintly like embers. The friend screamed, the driver swerved, and when they looked back, she had vanished completely. Even modern-day police officers have received frantic calls from drivers insisting they hit a pedestrian on Archer Avenue. But every time they rush to the scene, there is nothing to be found. But what does Mary want? Is she searching for her way home? Is she reliving her final tragic walk from the ballroom to the cemetery? Or is she something darker, an echo of grief that feeds on fear? Some locals whisper that Mary is not simply lost, but angry. They point to the burned gate marks as evidence that she has tried to break free. Others believe she is warning people, forcing them to slow down so they don't meet the same fate she did. The scariest stories are the ones where she doesn't vanish at the gates. One chilling account tells of a young couple driving home late one night. The boyfriend saw a girl hitchhiking and, despite his girlfriend's protests, pulled over. The girl climbed silently into the back seat. At first, she looked normal, pale, tired, quiet. But after a few minutes, the girlfriend glanced back and let out a blood-curdling scream. The girl's face was gone. Where her features should have been, there was only shadow. The boyfriend lost control of the car, swerving wildly before slamming to a stop. When they turned around, the back seat was empty. Another story tells of a truck driver who claimed the girl stayed with him until sunrise. She didn't speak, didn't move, just sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, her face hidden in her hair. But when the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, he turned to ask her where she needed to go. She was gone, the seat cold, the impression of her body still pressed into the fabric. And yet, despite the countless sightings, no one has ever captured definitive proof. No video, no photograph, only burned gates, twisted stories, and terrified witnesses. But the legend endures. The O. Henry Ballroom, now known as the Willowbrook Ballroom, was destroyed in a fire in 2016, but locals still claim Mary dances in the ruins. Drivers still report seeing her on Archer Avenue, especially on cold, moonlit nights. Paranormal investigators still visit the cemetery, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl who refuses to rest. And perhaps the most frightening truth of all is this: Resurrection Mary doesn't just appear in the past. She still appears today. So, if you ever find yourself driving down Archer Avenue late at night, roll down your window, turn off your music, listen carefully to the wind, watch the side of the road. Because if you see a pale young woman in a white dress, walking silently under the moonlight, don't stop. Don't offer her a ride, because she will get in your car. She will sit behind you. She will wait until you pass the cemetery gates, and then she will vanish. But if you're unlucky, maybe this time she won't leave at all.